Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we have a final round of patch notes before the PTS and Season 4 hits live. So, this is just round 3. We've already covered round 1 and 2. And it is stated in these very patch notes that this will be the last changes. And then everything else that will be changed will be in patch 4.2. So, the next patch after. The changes here are not as huge as in the previous round of the PTS changes, but there's still quite a few, so I figured for the sake of covering all of them, we'll do one last video on this, and then we're done with that. And with that, let us jump into the changes. Number 1, Divine Ruin. Divine Ruin has now only got 10 flat penetration instead of 15. I think that is an understandable change. I do think that Divine Ruin will still be strong, especially as a counterpick to healing. And the flat penetration on this item made it a much more, well, early potential choice just to get the pen. Because cooldown reduction is not that hard to get anymore. Penetration is a little more rare. And as such, with Divine Ruin having it, it would be a bit too easy to just counter healing very early into the game that way. So I see where the penetration, or why the penetration is taken off here. Aim-pointed shuriken. Decrease crit chance from 15% to 10%. Well, I mean, we were buffing that tree with attack speed and then we take away the crit chance. But, fair enough. Fair enough. The real change here is the Poison Star. Poison Star basically getting the Wind Demon treatment now, where it just ended up having too many stats for its price and being a little too good in regards, or in comparison to other crit items. The attack speed stays on, but 10 physical power has to go, so 30 physical power instead of 40 now. Teleria boots and Traveler's shoes get a change that it says it only procs on damaging abilities. What I'm not sure if this is just referring to abilities, but the point here is that it doesn't proc on non-damaging abilities anymore. But does it affect basic attacks? And that's what I'd like to know. So I can't really judge about this. I can see why the non-damaging abilities have been deactivated for that. Remember the Caldeck glitch. I would assume there are a few more like that if you really look for them. Spectral Armor. Wait, excuse me. Okay, there's actually another note underneath that says the effect that gains Bone and Skull will now only trigger if an enemy is damaged rather than hit. That would indicate that basic attacks are still counted in. I'm not quite sure, though. I would say probably, hopefully. Spectral Armor gets a price increase from 1,900 to 2,100. I still think that the fear on it shouldn't be there. There's gonna be like a gradual change, like we're gonna nerf this item step by step, make it weaker and weaker and weaker, until we eventually realize that the fear has to go. This is what I'm guessing so far. Because it's just such a potent CC with less conditions than others. Like, for example, Mental of Discord having ACC works because it requires you to get under a certain health threshold. Spectral Armor's passive is much easier to be forced out in any engagement situation where there's this melee physical present. And as such, it's just weird. Especially when you combine it with Mental of Discord and you have two sorts of hard CC in your kit surrounding the character. I don't think it's good. I don't think it's good at all. So I would just like to see the effect go or be something else. War Flag. War Flag is probably the biggest change in this patch in terms of viability of an item in a positive way. And that's actually one that I really like. So War Flag gives you attack speed and movement speed, 1% per stack. It does that to you and allies surrounding you. It also now has 6 seconds duration instead of 3 seconds, after killing minions, obviously. And what's most interesting, it caps at 10 stacks. I'm not quite sure how you would make it last from one wave to another. I don't think you really can, unless you are able to delay the next wave. And you could do that on purpose. You could basically try and freeze the wave so the minions stack up more somewhat, and I think it could work. I think you could be able to do that in a way that would allow you to keep the buff up, but I'm not entirely sure. Otherwise, you could do it with jungle camps and then a wave at least. and then suddenly overwhelm the enemies with that increased attack speed and movement speed early into the game, which can be very potent. So I really like that item. I really like the idea behind that item. Would still combine it with Watcher's Gift, but this buff actually gives it a lot more viability. I could imagine that it could end up being a little too strong, but the fact that it affects attack speed instead of power doesn't make it too crazy early. So I think it will still be fine. I think it will be good now. Shaman's Ring, decreased passive healing and mana restore from 3% to 2% of the max. Basically the same treatment that Soul Eater received, now for the magical counterpart as well. Probably needed because it was just a little too strong. So I think most of these changes were good. I'm interested to see what happens with the crit shuriken tree now, because those items, you know, they kind of went from originally, well, especially Poison Star was just lackluster, to then being relatively potent, to then being very strong on PTS, and now going into a different direction. And we'll see if that works out for them in the end. And that's already it for these patch notes. That's it for round 3. So this will all make it to the live servers, and this is the last change that we see beforehand. And this is what we will start with. What I'm surprised about is that the spawn timers for jungle camps and minions did not change anymore at all. So we are sticking with what was the last, well, state of them, the last instance. Which I guess is good, but surprising to me. Surprising to me. I would not have thought that it stays that way. And it will make for some very interesting meta shifts, which we get into in the following days. And with that, thank you guys for watching. Hope to see you for the next one tomorrow. Sloth out.